Hello and welcome to Wyrd Wessex. My name is Craig.
And I'm Andy. And today we are going to be moving north from the chalk figures of Wessex to the Falkirk Triangle in Scotland.
Yes, so Bonnie Bridge between Glasgow and Edinburgh in the valley of Bonnywater is quite an unremarkable village in Scotland. It's a town with a population of just 6,000. And while I say unremarkable, there is one other thing. It's known to have around 300 UFO sightings every year, making it the UFO hotspot of the UK and possibly the most visited site in the world. It's actually often referred to, as Andy said, as the Falkirk Triangle or the Scottish Roswell. A staggering 1 in 3 people that lived there claim to have seen a UFO. And in 1 year in the 90s, this actually reached over 600 sightings.
Drinking a lot of Buckfast will do that to you.
Let's not slag off the Scottish. Come on, we just got started. They're better than that. They drink whiskey. The Falkirk Triangle is classed as the area roughly between Falkirk, Bonnybridge and Stirling, although that seems to depend on who you ask, as I've also seen it cover as far as Fife, Glasgow and Edinburgh. But for this episode, we're going to be covering stories from the triangle itself and a few nearby surrounding areas. And there is a lot. I kind of had to draw a line under it in the end because I could have kept going, I think.
Now, something I've read actually, it's apparently one of the first places someone saw what they described as a chemtrail. Now, I won't go too much into chemtrails. I've got a feeling if we do end up doing an episode on conspiracy theories, that's going to feature.
Hang on. Trying to find my tinfoil hat. Where did I put it?
We'll get some. We'll get some. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, a chemtrail is supposedly a trail of chemicals blasted out the back of a plane for nefarious purposes, usually by some shadowy government organisation, or maybe in this case, aliens. There's lots of explanations to what it might be for, ranging from testing experimental biological weapons on us to mind control agents. What it is assuredly not, apparently, according to these people, is condensed vapor trails coming out of engines of planes, because cold air with hot stuff coming out does that. But, you know, as I said, we'll cover that another time. One of the first recorded sightings in the area was on the 9th of November in 1979 in Dirchmont Woods near Livingston. Now, this case is the only example of a UFO sighting ever becoming the subject of a criminal investigation. 61-year-old Robert Taylor, who was quoted as being a very well-respected man of the community, who was unlikely to invent a story of this sort. He was an army veteran working as a forester on this day at around 11 a.m. He parked his truck in a lay-by on the M8, and he walked along a forest path with his dog. In a clearing about 480 metres from his truck, Bob reported seeing hovering above forest floor a huge 6.4 metre,
very dark grey colour, and had a big flange going all the way around. I could see arms sticking out of this flange with what I took to be blades. 2 balls came out, 2 balls. I think they'd be about 3 feet in diameter with about 6 spikes. And they were rolling on these spikes. They came right up beside me, and I remember feeling a tug at that time. And a very powerful smell, a choking sort of smell.
He had a feeling of being dragged, and then he lost consciousness. According to Bob, he woke up later to the dog barking, and the objects had vanished. He crawled along the path and managed to stagger back to his home in Livingston.
I'm disappointed, Andy. I wrote Bobbert.
Do you want me to say Bobbert?
On arrival home, his wife recalls,
"It looked terrible when he came in the door, and he just stood at the door, and I said, 'Have you had an accident with your lorry?'
And he replied, 'No, I've been attacked.'
And I said, 'What with?'
And Bob replies, 'With a spaceship.'
And I said, 'Oh, goodness me, there's no such a thing as a spaceship. I'm going to phone the doctor. You must have fell and hurt your head.'"
I love it.
Yeah. So there is a video that you can find on YouTube.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's worth having a look because there's some illustrations and stuff of the craft he saw in the video. But anyway, the doctor treats him for grazes to his chin and thighs, and the police take Robert back to the site of the incident.
On examining the area, I found 2 track marks and approximately 40 holes in the ground. And these are the track marks here, and these are the 40 holes. Since then, I've photographed the holes. This is a photograph of the hole here. This is the holes that measured approximately 3.5 inches. And this other photograph here, you can actually see the tread marks which correspond to the marks here. These markings and tracks were actually inside this area here that's fenced off, and there was definitely no other tracks leading to or from this area.
So, yeah, due to the injury sustained, police recorded the matter as a criminal assault. However, Robert said that he did not think the aliens meant him any harm. He said, "I do not think they're out to do me any harm, but I was very frightened. I'm a countryman and I've never seen anything like this before." I love like the assumption, I'm a countryman, this sort of thing might happen in the city, but not me. There were multiple other reports of UFOs in the area leading up to that day and on the day too. During the morning rush hour, Graham Kennedy was heading west on the A89 when his attention was captured by an extremely bright light passing overhead as he drove by Bangor Hospital. Even more alarming, the object appeared to head towards his vehicle at great speed, only changing direction at the last moment.
They were playing chicken.
Yeah, that's it. The alien lost. At the same time, a nurse, Anne McGregor, was walking along the A89 on her way to work at that hospital, at Bangor Hospital. She heard a strange hissing sound and looked up. What she saw was a bright light heading towards the Dirchmont Law region. And this was also reported by a cyclist as well.
Yeah, so that story has a collaboration of 3 different people that witnessed it.
Yeah,
although it's a busy highway, so I'm surprised there weren't more reports of it. But there you are. Now, somewhere between 8 and 4 p.m., which is weirdly vague, there was a Mrs. Scott stood waiting at the bus stop when she noticed a round silvery object with flashing lights hovering overhead. She turned to another lady at the bus stop and asked her what she thought the strange object was. And she said she thought it was something out of the ordinary. As they watched the craft, it suddenly sped off in the direction of Dirchmont Law.
Everyone here is like the master of understatement.
Just, what's that? It's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's a spaceship, it's fine.
A little before 6 p.m. the night before the incident with Robert Taylor, a Josephine Quigley, along with 4 of her friends, witnessed a circle of lights that were moving slowly over the Livingston area. At around 8 p.m. the same night, a Mr. Ferguson was bringing his lorry to a stop in a lay-by when he saw a strip of brilliant light, which was shaped like a ruler, heading in the direction of Dirchmont Law region.
And around the same time, there's more. Around the same time, in the Bells Quarry region of Livingston, 2 brothers, Stephen and Alan Little, witnessed what they described as a spherical, 1,200-foot dome-shaped object, the mothership, I'm guessing, with white, red, and blue lights running around the outside of the craft. And that's something you see quite a lot in reports in America and all over of lights either circling the craft or physically sort of moving around, like independent of the craft. The craft remained in view for several minutes before it slowly faded from sight. All the while, it remained completely silent. This wasn't confined to that time as well. In the same area, in 2021, on the 10th of October, Tess Blair took some photos that upon returning home turned out to contain what appears to be the underside of a UFO that was directly over her head. And it's a strange photo, isn't it?
It is. It's not really clear what it is. It could be the underside of a UFO.
If you look at the photo, and if you'd have told me that was a patch of ground in an industrial estate or something, I might believe you. If you told me it was some underwater footage of a sunken submarine, I would believe you. So, it's very vague as to what that photo is.
But I think the idea, if Tess is to be believed, Tess, come on the podcast if you're listening. Love to hear from you. She's basically taken a picture and nothing was there as far as she was concerned. She's gone home, looked at the picture. Oh fuck! There's a craft.
So
Do you see what I mean?
What was she taking a picture of?
Just the sky, I presume.
Interesting.
So she wasn't aware there was a craft there until she got home.
It didn't show up in her vision, but it showed up on the camera.
Presumably, it was too dark for her to see anything. It just looked like she was looking into black.
That pretty much takes up the entire screen, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, she was just walking along with her phone, like over her head, snapping as she's walking along, you know. But
I don't know. I think she's taken pictures before. And I think there is a story coming up later about a craft without any lights. So maybe that ties in. Well, I mean, that is the end of the cases that are linked to that first one that happened on those couple of days. What are you thinking?
it seems a bit too much of a, you know, I can't imagine. It reminds me of a few episodes back. We were talking about UFOs, and there was that one in Dorset, I think it was, and it had been seen by multiple people. And I'm going to say something, it's a bit weird that it's been seen by that many people, like who had no chance of collaborating and, you know, sort of making up a story together. You know, you've got all those incidents happening in a quick succession. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult because, I mean, lights, you know, when I was telling my UFO story, you know, I saw a strange glowing light moving around erratically and fast, you know, could have been ball lightning. Same with that, you know, you get these plasma balls, like, so the road, that could have been that. You get weird noises off of that. But that happening on the same day as Bobbitt's experience is, yeah, I don't know. That seems a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, all their descriptions are different, which shows how difficult it is to get eyewitness stuff, isn't it? Even if you ask for a description of a person, everyone's going to describe them differently. Like, we all see different things.
Yeah.
So even if they could all be describing the same object, but likewise, they could all be completely different things.
You might see a big cat, I might see a dog, you know, it's a little callback there.
Yeah. But yeah, and then, I mean, Robert's case itself, I mean, he goes unconscious for a bit, and he works to the dog barking. So I don't know what happens. The dog doesn't seem to stop him from being dragged off by the aliens. But what did they do to him?
I mean, you've read into this a lot more than I have, but from what I've read into, you know, so when you mentioned wanting to do the Falkirk, I was like, I had to look up what the fuck the Falkirk Triangle was. And reading what I have of him, he doesn't seem like the sort of person that would make that kind of thing up, like that outlandish. And then you've got the police coming in, you know, corroborating the story as well, you know, sort of being able to say, you know, yeah, this is what we found.
Do you know his torn trousers as well? There's a guy that writes a lot on UFOs in Scotland.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name. It's Malcolm something or other. It might come up later in the notes, I think. But he actually owns the torn trousers. They still exist.
Oh, I reckon if we can get him on the podcast, he'll show them to us, like hold them up and.
Yeah.
That's it. World exclusive, torn trousers.
We should get him on. It'd be fun.
I would.
He's written multiple books on Scotland's UFOs and stuff, so he's like the expert.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine that the sources we've used, multiple of them have probably referenced from Malcolm's work.
And it's kind of funny because given how we are and our views on the supernatural and the paranormal, I kind of get the impression that you and we both lean a little bit more towards believing the UFO stuff.
I think we did say that that's the only episode we've agreed at the end that we're not sure.
Yeah. So, you know, hopefully, because I always get worried about the idea of asking someone on that, you know, how skeptical we are, whether they'll think it's, you know, and genuinely I want to hear what they have to say. But
But that's their job. They need to convince us.
Exactly. We're going to 1989 now, when a red object appeared in the sky whilst a fire crew were attending a blaze. It said the object came towards the fire engine and flew off, and then a second object appeared shortly afterwards. The second object was white and hovered above Loch Elrig. I think that's how you pronounce it, Elrig. And it was only about 8 metres from the witnesses at the scene.
It's fairly close.
That's, you know, they didn't, to my knowledge, they didn't describe a sound or anything like that. But that's very, it doesn't say how big the object was either. In the early 90s, when a local businessman named James Walker was driving between Falkirk and Bonnybridge, so going back to Bonnybridge again, he was forced to stop his car as the road ahead was blocked by a brightly shining, star-shaped object hovering above the road. The object took off at a high speed before disappearing. A media frenzy ensued, and Bonnybridge was flooded with TV crews from around the country filming news pieces and documentaries about this strange occurrence.
I think this was the big one that really started to draw attention to Bonnybridge, and where you get like the Falkirk Triangle name comes in. This was like the leading one, the star-shaped object that could have been a star. The star-shaped object that could have been a star. I like that. But yeah, so just a few months later, the Sloggett family were out for an evening walk from Hullglen to Bonnybridge, and Stephen Sloggett, the father, pointed out a blue basketball-sized light in the sky that was making a weird howling noise. I find that quite interesting.
Howling noise, yeah.
I've never come across a howling UFO case.
I can see it, I can picture that now,
It quickly swooped down, landed in a nearby field, after which the door to the craft is said to have opened and a blinding intense light shone out at them through the trees. So then the family noped right out of there.
You would, I think.
In September 1996, a mother, son and family friend left their home to drive to Fruquet. En route, they saw a blue triangular object in the sky, which they say emitted 3 columns of white light. It screamed off into the night sky, but on their return journey, decided to return above their vehicle. Intrigued by what they saw, they decided to venture back out and saw columns of coloured light in the trees, with a blue mist and hundreds of small grey beings carrying cylinders towards the object. They also reported some of the beings sitting motionless in a field. Like a cult.
Very culty.
Does sound like a cult to me.
A video of an orange and oval light above Falkirk changing shape to become a white disc, sort of more of a classic flying saucer shape, then disappearing suddenly, was captured in October 1996, so not too long after that. The clip was supposed to have gone viral, although we couldn't find it, so apparently not that viral.
It's 1996. I mean, it's an old video at this point, but for the time it went viral, I think.
Yeah. The most famous Scottish case, though, which was taken seriously and was actually investigated by the MOD, happened just south of the area. On August 27th, 1992, shortly after 8 p.m. on the A70, which is near Edinburgh, ambulance technician Gary Wood and his friend Colin Wright were travelling towards Tarabrax. Now, shortly after passing the Hasbury Reservoir, they claimed to have encountered a strange, shiny, smooth black object hovering over the car. They said it was definitely not an aircraft or a helicopter, and it had no lights on it anywhere. So this thing's just like smooth, black, no way of...
This is what I was saying earlier, you see?
Yeah.
I said there was one coming. I couldn't remember which case it was, but I knew there was one without lights.
So it gets weirder. The object dropped what is described as a curtain of white light directly in front of the car that stretched right across the road, leaving the pair no option but to continue straight through the strange shimmering glow. Gary floored it and sped under the object. As he drove into it, Gary said that it had the appearance of a detuned television set with multiple flickering lights. Then they both blacked out.
So when they came to, struggling to regain control of the car, they finished travelling to their destination, which was a friend's house. On arrival, they found their friend was actually in bed as it was 1 a.m. and the pair were over 2 hours late. Soon after the encounter, Gary was bothered by intense and strange nightmares and suffered from severe headaches and was sent for a CAT scan by his doctor, but nothing unusual was found.
That kind of reminds me of one of the stories we did in the last UFO episode, that family that lost time as they
Yeah.
an object, I think, and they were having problems, headaches, nightmares, feelings of, just feeling disconcerted, just feeling off,
Yeah. So after doing some research into UFOs, they come across Bufora. You know what that stands for, don't you, Andy?
It's actually pronounced. It's the British UFO Research Association.
Yes. And
Not
through that, they
upsetting.
not
But-
quite, but through that they met Malcolm Robinson, who I mentioned earlier, has the trousers.
Yes, yeah. So all interconnected.
Yeah. So Malcolm suggests that they might try hypnotic regression, and so they visit a hypnotherapist named Helen Walters.
Which again happened with that family in the last one.
I think in that one it was the father. They decided the son was too young. The father did it, and the mother decided not to do it. I think
That was it.
you're going back a few cases.
They said that when their car had been hit by the light, it was approached by several small humanoids that surrounded their car. Then the doors to the car flew open, and Gary was floated out on some kind of floating stretcher. Colin recalls waking up to a strange ramp entering the craft that he says was a strange room lit by a light, which was a dazzling light apparently. At this point, he's sort of drifting in and out of consciousness. Colin remembered being in a featureless room with only a chair at its centre. He describes the room as feeling sort of organic, as if the very room he was in was alive. He then recalls being naked on the chair and undergoing an examination. Then his next memory was that he was in a glass or a perspex container and his ankles were strapped, and all around him were more containers filled with other naked people. He's approached by 3 humanoid figures larger than those of the car. They begin to scan him with a device with 2 glowing red lights.
Meanwhile, Gary recalls being on a table in a similar room as the one described with the chair, only with patchy memories as he comes in and out of his hypnosis. He recalls a translucent arm that descends to touch his shoulder, causing him immense pain. And then a hole opens up in the floor containing a viscous gel-like liquid. To Gary's horror, a tall and incredibly thin, frail-looking creature emerges from it. The being looked like an emaciated grey. I find that actually quite interesting that he describes them as a grey. That implies that he's got some interest in the law.
He's been talking to Malcolm, or this account.
I guess so. Yeah. So the being looked like an emaciated grey with its skin appearing brutally stretched around its thin skeletal frame, and the rib area looking discoloured and bruised.
For anyone that isn't in the know, greys are one of the... There's a number of more commonly referenced aliens when people have these encounters, and greys are one of the most common ones, aren't they?
Yeah, it does make you wonder whether his talks to Malcolm have seeded this information for the hypnosis.
That's it. Or maybe just one picture and Malcolm went, "Oh, that's a grey."
Yeah, maybe. But these quotes are coming from his hypnosis, so yeah. I don't know, it seems odd that he has the...
It might be paraphrased,
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems odd to have that vocabulary to describe.
Yeah.
Oh, it was like a grey. What? What's a grey? There was a smaller creature with a heart-shaped painted face that he described as being like that of a Native American. At this point, he speaks telepathically to the creature, saying, "Why are you doing this?" To which the creature responded,
"Sanctuary, we are here already, and we are coming here."
It goes on to say that
Human beings in many ways are more advanced, but you have been capped.
Wow.
yeah,
So,
Some
yeah,
odd-
it's probably the most comprehensive one of these, isn't it? Like, in terms of, put together, narrative.
yeah, I guess it comes down to as well whether you think there's anything to be gleaned from hypnosis or not.
Yeah, I definitely think there is something in it, but it's, again, I don't know how closed off this was, whether there are any independent witnesses to it. As you say, the real alarm bell for me there is the fact that he described it as a grey. Given that sort of alien conspiracy sort of vocabulary from the get-go.
It's funny, really, like, you write these things down and it's like when you start to verbalize them that stuff jumps out at you more.
Yeah, when you say it aloud, it's like, damn, I missed that, you know?
And you're like, hang on, a grey? Why does he know? Oh, he's been speaking to Malcolm, so he's primed for this.
Yeah.
I mean, Malcolm, again, if you're listening, feel free, get in touch. We'd love to talk to you. We are skeptics, but we're doing the Exiles Want to Believe thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's basically where that story ends, really.
Now, with all this going on, we've already built up this rich, that there's this rich tradition in this area, especially of UFO lore. And this spreads, I guess, but just east of the Falkirk Triangle lies a place called Gorebridge, and what's thought to be a non-human secret meeting place known as the Camp. An abandoned coal mine with a slew of alien activity reports basically around this area. One report says that 2 people were chased from the mine by a luminous floating green eye. Horrifying. And the area also reports missing livestock, men in black wandering around, UFOs and abductions.
I mean, there are, as we've said already, there are tons of these cases in Scotland. Like, I feel like we could go on for hours doing this.
And it's not just going back to the 60s and 70s. Less than an hour away, there's a bizarre incident in Perthshire in 1767. Now, it's a pyramid-shaped object this time over a river, the River Erich, that's moved with a great speed and disappeared a little above Blairgowrie, leaving a trail of destruction that included a partly destroyed house and bridge.
So that's an interesting one. Like, there's an actual trail of destruction from this craft.
Yeah, which is... there was that one down south, actually, down south of Scotland, that the MOD were heavily involved with. I think that involved a trail of destruction as well, didn't it? I think they were like blown down.
1767 is pre-flight as far as humans are concerned.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So an object flies through, destroying a house and a bridge.
Could be a meteor.
I was going to say, unless it's a meteor. But, yeah. I mean, it says pyramid-shaped object.
Yeah.
Was it a pyramid?
Yeah, that's it. Just decided to come and overlook it. It's at Stonehenge or something. I don't know. The area surrounding Blairgowrie is said to be another hotbed of UFO activity, with reports of strange balls of light in the sky, and the location actually of Scotland's first ever crop circle, which was in 1990. They were late to the game.
They were. We beat them way before that. Crop circles is a Wiltshire thing.
That's it. In April 1984, Sid and Gwen Freeman experienced a series of unsettling encounters, including a UFO hovering over their garden and a visit from 12 men dressed in black.
Yeah, Emma's quite concerned when I said we were going to do this story. She was like, we best not start getting knocks at the door by men in black.
There has
been...
been...
But...
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, like, all the stories of men in black that I've ever heard, they kind of make threats, but they never do anything.
Yeah, they just kind of stand around and menace.
I'm more scared of the UFOs and the aliens than I am of the men in black.
Although, to be fair, maybe we only hear from the ones that don't get taken away by the men in black. The ones that do are never seen again.
Well, if I disappear before this podcast goes out, you won't know about it because I'll have disappeared.
That's it. I mean, there has been a couple of blacked out landlords just like sat out in the car park by my window just for a while, but, you know, probably nothing.
There's a couple of chickens just here. I think they're chickens.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, not like little ties and like black blazers. So in the west end of Glasgow, 2 weird incidents happened, 21 years apart, that were reported within the same small sort of area. The first in 1955 was at Belhaven Terrace, where children playing outside were terrified by several entities floating above the ground dressed in long white clothes. I think we're going back to the culty thing now, aren't we?
Sounds it.
But I don't know how many cults actually managed to levitate. Yeah. In nearby Westbourne Gardens in 1976, a resident said he watched a silver dish-shaped object move across his flat window and hover about 100 feet above the ground. Witnesses in 2 nearby flats corroborated his account of events.
Then across the city in 1983, a man waiting at a bus stop in Mennock Road saw what he claimed looked like a railway carriage-shaped object with 3 windows at the front and a glimpse of swirling yellow smoke inside of it, passing 20 foot above his head. So again, fairly close.
Yeah.
Afterwards, he described a sensation of time standing still whilst watching it.
You've seen Back to the Future 3. It was just, it was just Doc with his with his time machine train.
Funnily, you say that because we watched the first one just the other day.
Great films.
Yes. At Glasgow Prestwick Airport, the traffic controller reported in February 1999, and I quote, a fast-moving, unexplained UFO on radar. Then in 2003, a witness reported a fluorescent green saucer-shaped UFO harassing a plane. During a YouTube interview, the local councillor William Buchanan, who served as a Falkirk councillor for more than 25 years, stuck up for the sincerity and credibility of his fellow citizens. In 1992, when the James Walker case happened, Buchanan, who was a friend of Walker's, published the story in a local newspaper, and he was shocked by the public response of other stories that came flooding in. He's had various people arrive at his office to discuss the UFO cases, and one bizarre phone call from someone claiming to be called Phyllis Slemmer, who said they know why there are so many sightings in the area.
Phyllis travelled over from America with a friend she called Harmony. William described her as having long hair, slanted eyes, and hands like crocodiles, and he is convinced she is a reptilian, a race of alien that frequently visits the Earth. He has demanded that Scottish and English governments initiate an investigation, writing to multiple prime ministers, including Major Blair and Cameron, demanding respect and rigorous investigations on what is happening in the area. However, the MOD said they are satisfied there is no evidence that UK airspace could have been compromised.
So my thoughts on that is, do they not investigate because they're aware of what craft are flying over the area, which could go 2 ways. So one is that they're aware of alien spacecraft and can't or won't do anything about it. Or B, that the craft are military test craft that they don't want us knowing about. It could be a bit of both.
That's quite conspiratorial of you. I know.
Well, we've already established, this is our, we believe, right?
Yeah, to an extent. No, exactly. This is the closest one we get, I guess, or so far. Maybe we'll be convinced. But, I've been thinking, we keep talking about conspiracy theories on and off, and now maybe it should be an episode. So, a pitch for you.
Go on.
We'll do a conspiracy episode, or several, and we both pick a conspiracy. We take on the role of a believer in that conspiracy, whether we do or not, and you've got to try and pitch it to the other person. So I might pick one, you pick one, and my one might be, I don't know, chemtrails, for example. And I've got to seriously try and, take on that persona.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Chemtrails. I mean, the object, I guess, is to present the conspiracy as it is presented by the conspiracy theorists. Because if you and I are talking about a conspiracy, it's more like, God, and then they believe this, and they also believe this. But if we're actually saying, no, this is a thing because, I think we'll actually get to the heart of these a little bit better.
Okay, yeah. We might need to iron out the details a little bit, but that could work.
Oh, I've got 4 ready to go, mate. I've been planning this for a while.
It's quite late at night at this point, so maybe we'll save it for another day, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's all right. But seriously, you should really look into, these global disasters that are inside jobs.
Or why they added a cock to Cern Abbas.
I heard it's actually got a gateway underneath, like Stargate, but Cockgate.
Or is it actually Cern Abbas?
Oh, don't be going down that one. The Men in Black will be knocking.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Men in Black. I'm happy to try and take you on with Men in Black.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not gonna play my hand yet. I'm gonna
No. As you say, it's probably best. I think we both know where we stand on a lot of stuff anyway. So
Yeah.
it's probably best that we play it as this is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I'll let you know my thoughts at the end. After I've had your thoughts.
Sounds good.
All right. The deal. Shake on it.
So yeah, there's been explanations for these UFO sightings that go beyond just UFOs, haven't there?
Yeah, especially the older ones.
Obviously, when we spoke about this before, fairies, we did discuss the idea that maybe UFOs are the new fairies in the sense of that's what people blame weird shit on. There's vortexes, and I know one conspiracy theory is that it's all a way to boost tourism.
Hang on, you didn't do the look behind before you...
That's all right, the Men in Black are out there, so I can see them. So yeah, wasn't there a suggestion that a UFO theme park could be built there or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure who said that, but yeah, the idea of twinning it with Roswell and then opening a theme park was an idea that it would bring in tourism and money to the area.
I mean, it's pretty much Roswell's industry now, isn't it?
Yeah, it works. Why not? Do you want me to say the next bit? That was me rambling.
Yeah, that does seem like 1 a.m. rambling.
That was like, I'd literally shut the laptop, turn off the lights, locking the doors, about to go up the stairs, and I just went, wait a minute.
I love it. It's like a manifesto, man.
Don't say that after the old episode. No. So yeah, our reality is not really perceived the same by everyone on the planet, right? So what scares me with these UFO stories and other paranormal cases and exorcisms is that either one, these people are telling the truth and there's some really weird shit out there that we can't explain or control, or B, there's a world full of crazy people out there that believe in aliens, UFOs, demons, and whatnot.
That's deep, man. But you're right. It's crossed my mind before. It's what is scarier, these, these conspiracy theories that are often or legends or folklore or scare stories that are designed to scare you. Or possibly designed to scare you. It's scary, the idea that they're real, and maybe that is what tugs at our consciousness when we do think about it. Maybe it's why even skeptics love them, because it's like, but what if, what if they're right? And yeah, as you say, on the other hand, it's like, none of it, maybe none of it's real, but there are a lot of batshit crazy people out there that
we've discussed on past episodes, and I said it on the Savanac episode. Like, it's not the woods that scare me, it's the people.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing again. Like, okay, I mean, one of two things has to be true, right? There's these people that believe this shit is happening, and that is scary. And then there's...
It's actually happening.
It's actually happening, or at least some of them are happening. Yeah. And that's also fucking terrifying.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. A lot of people that say this stuff, it's just for a bit of attention. But there's equally a lot of people that don't say it for attention, that genuinely do believe it. And maybe they have seen something, or maybe they're so delusional they've convinced themselves they've seen something.
Look at the exorcism of Michael Taylor and what that led to.
Exactly. I mean, such a horrific thing that was basically down to superstition, all down to superstition. It's not like Michael even grew up in a religious family, but it led to that,
and that you take that case as a good example, though. Either he was genuinely possessed, and that's fucking scary, or he wasn't possessed, but he believed he was possessed, and that led him to do what he did. And that's also fucking scary.
The world is a scary and weird place.
Yeah. So, on a lighter note, have you got any weird news? Can you like bring me back down before I go to sleep?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Have you got something light?
Keep one eye out the window. All light. I don't know about that. Is yours light? Because I'm going to go first if it is.
You go first.
All right. Well, this is a nice, cheery story from the Metro. South African prophet drowned and was eaten by crocodiles during a baptism in a local river.
Ooh.
The
I thought you said light.
Well, you know, at least they weren't abducted.
Ah.
The 48-year-old's remains were found surrounded by crocodiles in the Oliphants River in Limpopo days later. The man reportedly drowned during a prayer ceremony days earlier with 2 others, local media reported. So this is a group of prophets, or what they call prophets. Police spokesman Colonel Marcela Ledwaba said one prophet suddenly experienced difficulties and drowned in a crocodile-infested river. It's suspected he was attacked by crocodiles during the baptism ceremony. The 2 men who remained in the river after the man encountered difficulties searched for the prophet but could not find him. Police chiefs have since asked locals to avoid crocodile-infested rivers. I personally try to myself, actually.
I actually do. I actively avoid crocodile rivers.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm ahead of you. The South African police will be happy with me on that one. They've asked locals to avoid crocodile-infested rivers, either to swim or conduct spiritual activities. The most common type of crocodile in South Africa is the Nile crocodile, native freshwater habitats 26 African countries, and they're big buggers as well. Adult male Nile crocodiles can measure up to nearly 12 feet long and weigh between 500 and 1,650 pounds. They're also considered one of the most dangerous species of crocodile and thought to kill hundreds of humans each year. But yes, so yeah, apparently this prophet from sort of like quite a niche group, Christian group, was having this baptismal ceremony. Yeah, and during the ceremony was just snatched away and drowned by these crocodiles. And quite often they'll do this. Crocodiles, they'll because they can go for ages without eating. You know, they'll kill someone. They'll do their death roll. They'll kill someone. Then rather than just eating them, they will literally stuff them down into the mud under a rock or something underneath the river, and just leave them there for a while and then just go back to it.
Yeah, we've all seen Crocodile Dundee. Greatest film of all time.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So that was a nice light one to end the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. I hope you got something equally light for us.
This story comes from the Mirror, and the headline is "People are convinced they've spotted a time traveler in a 1940s beach pic."
Okay.
The photo shows Brits enjoying some respite during World War II, but it also contains a strange anomaly that people insist must be proof of time travel. One man appears to be out of place among other sunbathers in Cornwall in 1943. Dressed in brown, he is engrossed in what looks like a smartphone. So the Express reports that one social media user who sparked debate when he asked, is it just me or is this guy checking his phone in the 1940s? And another commenter said, good catch. It's clearly the man in the shot is a time-traveling tourist checking his mobile device. Skeptics, however, dismiss the bizarre theory as nonsensical. One social media user disagreed with the time-traveling theory and suggests, I think the chap is rolling a cigarette.
Yeah, he's sort of got his hands like that. I reckon, yeah, he's either rolling a cigarette or he's playing with a watch that I don't know, I don't look like the smartphone hands are more like that. Not, you know,
I reckon he's rolling a cigarette, to be honest.
You're probably
Not
right.
to shit on my own weird news.
So before we go, we've sort of mentioned in our stories, you know, oh, if you're listening, come on. We are actually thinking of adding a section to the show where listeners, if you've got any stories, any weird stuff that's happened to you, be it supernatural, UFO, anything like that, come on and tell your story. Chat to us about it. We would love to hear it. We've actually got someone interested in that, or a few people interested in that potentially.
Yeah, we had a comment on YouTube just the other day. Guess by the time this goes out, it won't have been. So apologies to that person.
The other day to us.
But yeah, there's someone in New Zealand that had a really interesting story about a visitation, shall we say, from their granddad. And they've sort of said they might come on and tell us that story. And there's a couple of others as well. There was another one, I think, was at No Fort. There's someone else I know that has some poltergeist activity related stuff that we might be able to get on. Yeah. So if anyone's interested in coming on, you don't have to do a full episode. We're thinking about making it a segment. So if you want to come on, just tell us the story, we'll discuss it, and then move on to weird news or something.
Yeah.
Not sure. We're working through it.
And if you're not up for physically being on here, if you don't want to be chatting to us or anything like that, we understand. But
Andy is weird, we know.
But yeah, it's if you don't want to be on the podcast, send in your story, and we could still read it. We could still talk about it. So yeah, we just love to hear your stories.
So if you want to let us know your stories or anything else, you can contact us on our email address, which is Wyrd Wessex, WYRD Wessex @pm.me, or get in touch on Facebook or Instagram. Same thing, Wyrd Wessex. Should also at this point plug we have t-shirts from some guy called the Kernabas Giant, I think. Is that his name?
Yep. Very, very famous figure, very proud.
Prominent on the Wessex countryside. Yeah, so you can get that merch on our Redbubble store.
Until next time, stay weird.
And me.